I'm Kerry Peters, a recognized thought leader in the Microsoft Dynamics community and a Microsoft MVP for business applications. Welcome to the Get Your New View podcast. Keep listening to learn how we work with frustrated business, central, and NAV users who struggle to use their systems and find the answers that they need. We teach them to truly understand how the system can support their business processes to make immediate and lasting improvements. As a result, they get more done in less time, make better business decisions, and even love their system. In this next season of the Get Your New View podcast, I'd like you to meet Kim Congleton. Kim and I are the co-owners of New View Strategies, and this season, we'll be talking with you all about change management and cheese. Hey everybody, it's Kerry and Kim, and we're here talking about change management and cheese, and today's episode is all about what happens when queso shows up, but you didn't order it. How do we plan for surprises to happen? This is an incredibly challenging situation, and it has never been more challenging for all of us than in the last year. Planning for surprises seems like an oxymoron, like you just can't do that, but you absolutely can. You sure can't predict everything, but you can plan to be surprised and to be ready for those surprises to happen. So Kim, how do we do that? How do we plan for surprises?
Well, I think, normally when queso shows up at my table and I didn't order it, I'm just going to eat it. So, yep. That's the first thing that popped into my mind. But you're right. Like, how do we plan for that surprise? And I think one of the things that's important to do is there's a couple things. One is make sure that you stay focused on what's critical. So, that surprise happens and they are going to happen. I mean, that's just real life. You look at it and you say, is that something I need to be concerned with? Is it something we need to incorporate into the plan, or can we just let it go? And I think that's the first thing you have to do is like, does it affect you or does it not affect you? But then if it does affect you, it's okay, that's fine. We'll deal with it. We can do this. We know things are going to happen. And I think that's also a critical thing when you start any project, start with the expectation that stuff is going to happen. Yep. That may not be the word I use a lot, but stuff is going to happen. There's just no doubt about it. I mean, I don't know between the two of us, how many implementations we've been a part of, 60, 70, somewhere around that number.
Yeah.
And I can't look back on those. I mean, I look back on those and there is something that happened in each one of those.
Yep.
It might not have been huge, but there were small things that happened, and some of them, there were some pretty big things that happened. Mm-hmm. But, just for an example, we were doing a go live. We're going live with a warehouse management system, and it's like the day before go live, and a dump truck in a different city actually cut our T1 line from one building to the other building that was feeding us in a different state and city. And so, it was like nothing worked. We couldn't get any access from the building itself, and we were going live in like less than 24 hours. So, we packed up everything, we went back to the hotel, and, the bar wasn't open until 6 and it was noon. And I was like, can we borrow your bar for a minute? And so 25 people took over the bar at the restaurant, and we got done what we needed to get done until we could get back into the building and keep going. But, it's just like, who would have ever thought that would have happened that day, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Woo, that's a big one. Yeah. I know that probably one of the most common ones is that we have changes in people who are in the project,
yep.
Right? Stuff happens with people all the time. So people move on, people get promoted, people move into a different department. All of those different things happen throughout the life of a project. And that can be a big surprise that really doesn't fit with the plan. But that's something that we take into consideration when we put together project plans is, what about the risk of there being a key player change, and how are we going to be ready for that? How are we going to accomplish our processes so that we have schedules, we have documentation, we have, whatever the testing results are, all of that documented so that it can be easily picked up by another person. Yep.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that I think of when I think about planning for surprises is when a surprise happens, how can that be incorporated into your plan gradually? How can you make that surprise less impactful, right? You don't always get a choice, right? Like with the T1 line, you had to deal with that in the moment. That was pretty big. But how can you incorporate those things in gradually? And that really makes me think about a major thing that we did in the last year with COVID being a case that the majority of the training classes that we were doing were in person. So we would travel to a place, our students would travel to a place, we'd all be in a classroom together for the week. And that was no longer possible. So one of the major changes that we had that we incorporated gradually is we started creating our classes as virtual classes, and we started doing custom classes for different companies so that we could deliver those virtual classes either as an online offering for many people or for many people from the same company. And that took a whole lot of change and pivot to be able to change those different techniques, right? So how do I visit with you in person versus how I visit with you over the computer?
Yeah, and I think what was cool is that, we pretty much already had like the tools to do it. And we were kind of, 80-90% sure of the process to do it. And, being able to sit down as a team and kind of go through, okay, well, what do we need to take into account if we're going to go to a virtual classroom? And even doing something as simple as, we can't do an 8-hour class. Like, it's just, people can't pay attention that long virtually.
Yep.
So like looking at even those things and figuring out how we pivot. But you're right, it was like a gradual, and we kind of tried certain things, but we had the tools, we had the process almost there. We just had to adapt.
Yep, absolutely. I think that as I reflect on that time period for us, the thing that made us successful with that is that we really kept a laser focus on what was critical. So one of the key things that we do for our customers is training, and we suddenly were not able to deliver training in the way that we did before. So we had to decide if that was still critical to our business, and then how are we going to stay laser focused on how we would get that training in front of people. And we definitely made decisions to stop doing things that we were in the process of developing at that time, and to start developing things that really weren't on our timeline for another year or two. And that made a lot of sense for us and has really turned out to be a blessing that happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were incredibly lucky to be able to pivot as quickly as we did. And I think that's, when I look back on that time, I think that's what we were, what we were very grateful for. The fact that we had already kind of talked about that was in the plan further away, but we could be flexible enough and say, okay, we're going to pull that forward because that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah. I think that the major thing that made the difference for us is that we were already in the improvement mindset. Since this is something that we teach to our clients and our customers all the time, how do we move along with continuous business process improvements, and how do we make incremental change happen all the time? Our company was able to absorb that pretty easily. I know that hasn't been the same with other companies out there, and other companies haven't been as fortunate as we have. But I hope that some of the concepts that we've talked about with this series will help people to move forward so that in the future, when surprises come their way, they're able to tackle those as opportunities, and with the capability to be able to operate differently because you're ready to accept those surprises. Excellent. All right, here is your last assignment, since this is our last episode. How has your company dealt with change in the last year? So this last year, 2020, has been crazy with lots of changes, and think about how you can apply some of the things that you have learned here to help you with that kind of change in the future. All right. So this is our last cheese. And since we started talking about queso, we have to end with queso. Kim, I have some off-the-shelf queso. It's the only thing I could find that wasn't mild. I wish I could find some queso that is hot, right? So I absolutely would like to find some other queso there, but I definitely would melt this down and have this with some chips tonight after dinner.
And so mine is mild too. So I would have to put some jalapenos in it. So I have a queso dip as well. I happen to have leftover chips from my breakfast yesterday from my favorite Mexican restaurant. So I am definitely having chips and queso as part of dinner tonight, for sure.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Kim and I are going to go away and eat cheese for one last time. Not really. We eat cheese all the time, but we are going to enjoy our queso as part of our last episode. And we do have a special, special message for our team. How many episodes does it take us to get to queso? The answer?
16.
16. All right. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you for the next season of the Get Your New View podcast. I'm Kerry Peters. Thank you for tuning in to the Get Your New View podcast. For more episodes like this on YouTube, click the subscribe button and ring the bell to ensure that you get notified whenever new content comes out. If you're listening to the audio podcast, please share an honest review on Apple Podcasts. If you are ready to rethink today for tomorrow, look for the link below and contact us to speak with our expert team. You won't find the level of no-nonsense real-world experience we offer anywhere else, and we're here to put that experience to work for you. Do you think you could use more features of your software if you just knew how? Are you frustrated with inefficiency that never seems to get better? Did your team ever really get good training to understand how to use your business software? Do you suspect there just has to be a better way and you don't know what it is? We believe every company can benefit from increased efficiency and higher utilization of their software, and that it's possible to have fun while learning exactly how to do that. The experts at NewView Strategies work with frustrated Business Central and NAV users who struggle to use their system and find the answers they need. We teach them to truly understand how the system can support their business processes to make immediate and lasting improvements. As a result, they get more done in less time, make better business decisions, and even love their system. Please contact us at getyournewview.com to get started.